Welcome to another episode of What No One Tells You. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Chris.
In today's episode, we are talking to our good friends Alex and Jessica, or Jess. Do we actually call her Jessica? I feel like we just always call her Jess.
I think we just call her Jess.
Jess.
And you're never going to find these people on the internet. They've hidden themselves away.
They're the kind of people who are too cool for your social media.
They are.
They're just doing life.
They're personal friends. I mean, everybody is a personal friend of ours, but these people are like a really personal friends. I feel like you're going to hear us. We haven't had the conversation yet, but I already know that we're going to be smart aleck. It's going to be a very good conversation.
I'm going to be catching up with old friends. But these people are especially cool because they just got back to the U.S. from spending, how long did they live in Mexico?
Oh, we're going to find out, but it was months. It was
I
6
thought it
or
was
7
over
or
a
8.
year.
Yeah, it was a long time.
I thought it was over a year. Anyway, we'll ask them. But they have 5 daughters, which that alone is quite a feat. So congratulations to them. I mean, I don't know how they're doing it, but then they pick up their kids and they go to Mexico for a year, which the why behind the Mexico and everything is just so cool. So we're going to talk to them and just hear about moving abroad with your kids for a bit, whether it's seasonal or long-term, what that's like, misconceptions, safety stuff, all that kind of thing. These guys have done it firsthand. So we're just going to go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, but before we get into it, again, we're begging you, please leave us a review. It would be so nice just to hear your sweet, thoughtful words. Hopefully they're sweet and thoughtful.
Okay. We're going to wrap this up. All right, to the episode.
Alex and Jess, thank you so much for being here. I'm just going to skip the formalities because we love you, and I feel like when we have real friends on the podcast, you can tell. I think it's already been like 10 minutes or 5 minutes in, and like we're just laughing, and I'm like, we're not even recording this. So we want to just jump into the conversation. But thanks for being on the show, guys.
Yeah, thanks for asking us. Yeah. We're really excited.
Yeah. So I guess to start out, we know who you are, but not everybody does. So just give us the rundown of who you are, where you're from, where you've been, because I definitely want to lean into where you guys have spent a lot of your time recently. Tell us about your family, anything that is important. Just go for it.
Yeah. I'm Alex. This is Jess, as you've been told, but we live in Minneapolis. We have 5 daughters. Their ages range from 16 down to 6, 4, almost 3, and 1-year-old. Yeah.
You guys.
You just like to keep it interesting, right? Like
exactly. And
I can't keep up.
Yeah, for the second part, we have just spent the last year traveling. 9 months of that year was spent in Mexico.
I loved following your Mexico stuff.
Yeah, because we definitely want to get into that part of your guys' journey, because I mean, raising 1 kid, but let alone 5 kids is
all girls.
All girls. Yeah, all girls.
I grew up in an all-girl household, but we had 3, and I thought that was a lot.
I just can't imagine. Like it's got to be like all-out warfare inside that house all the time.
It's so much fun. Is it loud? Does it get loud with all girls for you guys?
So loud, like all the time. It's so loud.
That was my house growing up. I think that's why I'm still really loud, because it's like you're peeking on the microphone. I just had to always be louder than everybody else. Girl houses are hard.
So you guys, like you're in Minneapolis. You've been there for quite a while.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like we saw, through the interwebs that you were like, hey, we're leaving and we're going to Mexico. You took all 5 kids and you were like, you're coming to Mexico. So let's start at the beginning. Like, what was the thought process? Like, why did you just kind of up and leave and want to spend some time in a different country?
Yeah. So we've been in Minneapolis for over 10 years. We were kind of living just a normal life. We had a house in a neighborhood, and our oldest daughter was in school. And for a while we had a dog even, and just never really felt like settled. Even though we were so settled, we never felt settled. And so there was always like this longing to like change something up. And I think that's our personalities. We like change. We like doing new things. We like trying new stuff. We just needed like a shake up for our family. So let's see, it was winter 2022, very cold, probably everyone knows Actually, I didn't know this when I moved to Minneapolis, but it gets very cold here.
How did you not know that?
I don't know. I guess I didn't pay attention in geography, but
and you were moving from Texas,
correct.
right?
Yes, from Texas.
Okay.
Yeah, so
such a shock.
big shock. It gets very cold here. So anyway, it's winter, and we're just doing life. And I just one day got this really strong feeling like we're supposed to go. Like, we didn't know where, we didn't know what that was going to look like, but we knew we were supposed to go. So Alex at the time had a job working for a native doing native land restoration, and great job. He loves his work. And he came home for lunch one day, and I was like, listen, what if we sold everything and just traveled for like the next year? And Alex is pretty used to my ideas by now.
And this isn't the first time she said those exact words either. I've heard it.
But normally you could combat it with like, hey, let's just go to Costco instead, right? Or, or something like that.
Yeah.
But you knew she was super serious this time. Like, this is going to happen.
Yeah. Not to say like I'm not for it. I am, but circumstances, whatever, just not being in the past, like the timing just wasn't right, And so anyway,
For sure.
Yeah. So he's like, okay, yeah. And I was like, but for real. And he's like, yeah, that sounds great. And I'm like, but for real. So we went back and forth like 5 rounds to make sure that he knew I was for real. But yeah, like Alex said, just the timing, we both knew it was the right time. The timing doesn't really make sense because, our oldest daughter was a freshman in high school. I actually was pregnant. So we had 4 kids. I was pregnant with our 5th. Alex had a great job. Yeah. Yeah, we went to Mexico with 4 kids. We came home with 5.
I love that.
So the 5th one was born in Mexico?
Yes.
I knew that.
I didn't know that.
We saw you guys post about, they just had another girl.
Yeah.
I love it so much. So cool, you guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all right. So you decided that you're going to Mexico. Wait,
how did you decide on Mexico? Let's go back there.
Let's go back there.
We knew it was the right time to go somewhere. We didn't know where. So we just made a list of what are our priorities. We're a family. We're a big family. We are not wealthy. And we, so we had some like things to consider regarding those 2 limiting factors. So we just made a list of priorities. What did we care about? We cared about a relatively safe environment, a family-friendly culture, and an affordable location. Mm-hmm. And so once we kind of identified that, we made a list of some countries. Yeah. A couple were in Europe, and then there was Mexico. And ultimately, we landed on Mexico for 2 reasons. One, the proximity to the United States. With this being the first time we ever have done anything like this, we just thought it would be great to, just be able to get back to the United States easily and cost effectively if we needed to. Also, you can be in Mexico for 180 days without having like any sort of visa or residency. So that was another factor. And then also our oldest daughter is fluent in Spanish. So that was another contributing factor that we were like, okay, well, we already sort of have a leg up with the language.
That's so cool. I didn't know she was fluent in Spanish.
That's amazing. All right, so you made the list, the pro-con list, whatever. You figured out Mexico, and then are you set? You said you sold everything?
Yeah. Sold the house, sold the car.
Wow, you sold the house and everything.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. So you sold everything.
Yeah.
You packed up and you went to Mexico.
Yeah.
For first, like, what did your family say?
Great question. My parents are travel bugs. They,
okay.
I mean, they're getting ready to go to Asia for 3 months in December through March. So they understand, you know, they probably out of all of them understood the most, and could relate and were excited. So that was my parents. And then
our other family thought we were crazy. They did not understand why we would do such a thing. Is it safe? Does it make sense to sell your house? Like, can you travel with that many kids? Can you even have a baby in another country? Like, all, you know, lots of realistic concerns. So we got some positive, like exciting encouragement, some not so much. That was, you know, I think it can feel hard when you feel like there's people that don't want us to be doing this, or they think we're not making wise choices. So yeah, we had kind of a mixed bag of responses from family.
Yeah, we get that.
Yeah.
I feel like that's every time we have another idea, somebody is for it and someone's against it.
Yeah, we show up in one of our family members' driveway with a different vehicle every other month. So we're there's just the number of Cousin Eddie jokes we get. Is just like we're tired of the Christmas vacation jokes, but
So what was the time frame? You said, I'm guessing that the Minneapolis winter was a huge part of the inspiration. Did you guys get out by the end of winter? Or like, how long did it take you guys from the moment that Jess had the idea of like, we're going, to like actually boarding the plane?
So Jess had the idea February of 2022, and we didn't board a plane, we drove. And
oh my gosh.
We crossed the border on July 13th.
Wow. That's really fast. To sell a house, to sell everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you drove to Mexico. I didn't know that.
There is just a plethora of just different avenues on this story that I'm excited to talk about because it's so good. I mean, so you sold the house, record. I mean, like people at that time, were.
You guys sold at a great time.
You sold at a great time. I feel like you probably could just breathe, like whisper it, and somebody was like there with cash, for you in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And then, so you get in the car, you drive across the border, and then what?
Then we had to stay in a hostel for 4 nights.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Was that planned?
No.
We had something lined up, and then I was like, "Oh, it's not ready for another 4 days, but there's a hostel. We'll put your family in it for a few nights." And
so we get across the border, and immediately we're thrust into, you got to learn how to adapt quickly. That was our first big lesson. Adapt.
I mean, being in a hostel with 4 kids, that couldn't have been easy. I mean, the hostels I've stayed in have been very small rooms.
But I'm even thinking driving across the border, driving in the U.S. alone with 4 kids going down the highway is stressful enough. But then when you get to somewhere like Mexico, you know, certain parts can be, stressful, but I'm more liking it's slower because they have those speed bumps every like 5 minutes. They hurt the car. Every time you go over the speed bump, and so you had to transition fast, like it sounds like. And had you ever been to Mexico before?
Yeah, growing up, my grandmother lived in Mexico for a time, and so my family and I would go and visit her usually around Christmas time. So I had been a few times. Alex and I had been together once. So we weren't complete strangers to Mexico, but we definitely we'd never driven in Mexico, and the locations that we had been were definitely more tourist type places.
Sure.
So this was definitely our first time to ever experience everyday Mexico.
Did you guys drive around the entire, did you have your car with you the whole time? I guess you did. So you just drove from place to place in Mexico.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had no idea.
That's amazing.
That's so cool. Okay. So that brings me to my next question. How long were you guys in each place? Like how long? I feel like you guys stayed in places for an extended period of time. Like I remember seeing that your oldest daughter was even on a soccer team for a while. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
So neat. So how long were you in each place?
Yeah. So the first city we were there the longest because that's where we had our fifth baby. So that was a month and a half, two.
Yeah, something like that.
But then, after, which, we can get into that in a little bit, but then after that, then it was about 4 weeks at a time, is kind of what we planned for. And when we would go from city to city, we would stay a night or two or try and, hit cities in between our next big stop and stay a couple nights. So
that's a good amount.
Yeah, 4 to 6 weeks was like the average. I think we usually started with 4, and then if we really liked the place, we would stay a little bit longer.
I love that. That's about how we like to do it if we can, is at least 2 weeks, but we like to do at least like 4 weeks is like ideal. I feel like you really get to know a place pretty well in 4 weeks.
How long did it take you to know if you liked the place? Did you know pretty instantly? You're like, yeah, I'm not there. Or was it like a weekend? You're like, okay, we just need to bounce.
So smaller places, actually, I don't think there's anywhere we went that we were like, oh, we don't like it here. We liked everywhere that we went. There were some places that didn't have enough to keep us occupied for a long period of time. Most of the time we were in bigger places, bigger cities, but the smaller towns that we would stop in, 2 to 4 nights, usually after like 2 nights, we could tell, yeah, that was a great 2 nights, 3 days, but we're ready to move on. We're ready to see something else. And that was not because of anything bad, just because maybe they were just like a more local town, or a smaller place that didn't have as much to see and do. Look, a lot of places that looked so lovely, like if you lived there, probably were wonderful places to live. But as travelers, you're living, but you're also like looking for things to do. So if a place doesn't have like very much to offer as a traveler, then you're kind of ready. After a couple of nights, you can kind of tell like, okay, this is great, but we're ready to move on.
It's good that you know that. Like, it's okay to say, okay, time to move on. Because I feel like sometimes we feel guilty because we do always say like, oh, we like to travel slow. And then sometimes we get to a place and we want to give it like second and third and fourth shots. But after a while, we're like, I just don't feel it, or I don't feel like there's enough to do here. And it's okay to move on. It's hard to admit that sometimes.
Yeah. We're not going to name those places.
No, we're not.
But we know those places deep in our heart. So when you go, like, so you're in Mexico, you're in these towns, you're spending weeks, in different locations. How are your kids doing?
I was going to ask that.
How did they like this?
Yeah. So, I mean, the first couple months, honestly, was just transition. And I mean, transition for everybody, mom and dad, kids, like just, it was, I'm not going to say it was easy, it was definitely challenging, a struggle, but, it had us questioning, are we doing the right thing here? Like, what are we doing here? But, we just knew like it was the right place to be, and it was good. Like, we knew in the long term it was going to be good for the family and for us and for everybody. So, and then as just you take it day by day, really, and you learn what works, what doesn't work. You establish routines. I mean, just like being a parent at home, in everyday life, you live by routine, and otherwise it's just pure chaos all the time. So, which is what it felt like the first couple months. Just trying to get used to everything. Like, where's the grocery store? And where do we buy this? And, how do I feed my kids? And it's so, day by day and building routines. And eventually we'd get to a new place and the kids would be like, this is my room. This is my room. And like really just kind of dive headfirst into new places. And we're more open, and their little spirits just came alive the longer we traveled. So it was cool to see the transition that the kids went through from the beginning to the end of like just gaining that confidence of it's okay to be in a new place. It might be unfamiliar, but
we can figure it out. And there's always going to be something that you can connect with typically, you know, especially as you're like going through a new culture and you're learning new things. They'll remember, oh, that's what the ice cream store is called. Or, you know, oh, we get tacos from this type of place, you know, like whatever, just like little things that they can connect from place to place. So it doesn't all feel new all the time, even though it was all new all the time. Yeah, it was pretty cool to see how such small children and our teenage daughter, how they can just, what's the word? Like they can flow, they can like adapt.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I'm really curious about the oldest daughter. Was she, I know you said you started in Mexico in the summer, so I'm guessing she was probably out of school, but you were there for 9 months. So was she doing school on the road, or did she take a gap year, or what did that look like?
Yeah, so we withdrew her from school completely. She was attending a public school, and we withdrew her, and we just decided to use the year to homeschool. It had been a chaotic 2.5 years of school, like for most of the world. And it was really nice to just say, okay, let's take a step back from that and just have a breather from the classroom and all the things that have been going on in the school system and in our city. And let's just learn new things, but also rest. And it was cool. So we homeschooled her for the year. We did follow, the plan was always that she would return back to her school. So we did try to follow the classes that she would have been in had she been in school that year. But we still have flexibility in how we approach those subjects. So that was really cool. A totally new experience for all of us because we'd never homeschooled before. So that was another new thing.
As I'm sure, especially a high schooler.
But
amazing.
She, she understandably to ask a high school kid to just like leave their friends, leave everything they've known, was hard, but in the end, such a cool experience for her that I think, is going to just, well, we're already seeing the benefits of it, but even as she grows up, she's going to just be like reaping from this experience for so long. So it was really cool. It was cool. It was hard, but it was cool.
Did she go back to the same school, or did you guys keep homeschooling then?
Yeah, we gave her the option, and she was so anxious to go back to school. And
she's social.
She wanted to be with her friends. She wanted to, have kind of that classic high school experience. And I can't blame her. There's a lot of fun stuff that happens in that time of life. So she's having a great year. And I think it's made even better because she knows like how much she appreciates some of those things that she's getting to do this year. Yeah.
I have another question about
Go
education.
ahead.
I know I'm
Sarah's
always full of questions. I know you said that she was fluent in Spanish before she went. And I'm assuming that probably got even better after being there for 9 months. Did any of y'all speak Spanish too, or do you speak it now?
I spoke zero Spanish, understood zero Spanish. And I would say I'm like elementary level now. I can, work my way through sentences, understand a little bit, and context helps, but I still struggle. Like if someone just would come up to me and like start speaking in Spanish, I'd be pretty lost, but like where it counts, like in a restaurant, I generally know what's going on. So I know the questions they're asking and how to order food and be specific with what I want instead of just pointing,
Yeah.
That's how I communicate still.
Google Translate and be like, Banyo, where is the bathroom?
There was a really cool moment. I don't remember. It was probably maybe 4 months in. I have like an elementary level Spanish. I can get by, but I'm definitely not fluent. But we would go places and either Rose or I would have to translate for Alex what we were hearing and then what he was saying to the other person. And there was one point, probably about 4 months in, that we were at a restaurant and the waiter was talking and I went to like translate for Alex, and he just looked at me and he was like, yeah, I got it. And I was like, wow, that's so cool. Like, it was just a really cool moment. Oh, wow, you're learning this. This is life. Like, you're just learning as you go, adapting. Yeah. Yeah,
That's really impressive.
It was really cool.
Our Spanish is zip, and I guess I can say this because our video coming out this weekend, yeah, it's going to tell people where we're heading in our truck. We're about to head to Argentina. We're shipping it down there, and we speak zero Spanish, like whatsoever. So this is encouraging to hear, like, okay, 4 months in, you're ordering in Spanish. Like, I'm hoping that we will be able to do the same thing.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
Now, to be fair, Alex was up like, well, he's an early riser anyway, but like every morning he was so diligent. He did 4 weeks of Spanish lessons, like at a language school, and then he bought a program, and every morning he was up studying. So he was he was putting in the work for sure. He was putting in the work. But yeah, it's totally doable for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's our plan, is to like put in the time. Like, we're trying to a little bit now, like Duolingo, and it's just, I have a hard time like just doing the app stuff. Like, I want to do more than just 5 minutes a day kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think we're going to try to find like some classes when we get there. So how did you guys go about that? I'm just curious. Like, did you take lessons in person or online?
Yeah, we took lessons in person. I had found a language school in the first city where we stopped. I found a language school, and we just signed up for classes. And we got there on like a Saturday, and we started classes on Monday.
Wow.
So we like jumped in right away. And that was really good for us. Right away, feel like we had something to like ground us.
Yeah.
And then to like jump in with learning right away.
So I have to ask another thing. You were taking Spanish classes 8.5 months pregnant, I'm guessing? Is that right?
Yeah.
You were just like all in.
Yeah. I mean, before we left, we were like, okay, we can either postpone our trip and have the baby here at home in Minnesota and then go. But practical Jess and Alex, we were like, no, because then we'll have to wait for the birth certificate, and we'll have to get the passport. That'll push us back and back and back. And then it's not good to like sell a house in the winter time. And like, what, all the stuff. So we're like, we'll just go. It's fine. We'll just go. So yeah, we got there. I was 8 months pregnant when we arrived. And we just hit the ground running.
And that wasn't your first rodeo. It was your fifth rodeo. So you were like ready to go.
My fifth rodeo, yeah.
Wow.
I'm so impressed by you, Jess.
Did you have Duolingo like in the headphones on your stomach, like when you were pregnant?
Yes.
Yeah.
You come up with
I'm just thinking, So there's a lot of questions around this pregnancy and being in Mexico that I want to get in.
Tourism.
Yeah, medical tourism. So you're in Mexico, and then I had eye surgery in Korea. And
that is not even the same thing as having a baby.
No, it's not the same thing. But I feel like the reactions are their family or people here who haven't traveled as much. They're like, you did what?
You're going to miss a kidney when you wake up.
Like they think that I'm going to be strapped in some bathtub with ice cubes all around and missing half my body parts. And I'm sure people thought the same thing of you, and that you were going to be missing your baby, that, something awful was happening. So let's talk about having a kid in Mexico. What was that like? Would you do it again? All the experience.
Yeah, so similar to having eye surgery in another country, we definitely got those same kind of responses. Like, is it safe? Do people do that? Can you do that? Like, as an American, can you do that? What does that mean for the baby? Like, are there hospitals? Some questions that you think like, really? But people genuinely are concerned and genuinely don't know. And you don't know what you don't know. So, sometimes it could feel a little, I don't know, dismissive is the right word. They didn't think we knew anything. Of course, we've looked into this. We're parents already. What? But we just did a ton of research. So I just got connected. I'm like not a big Facebook user, but Facebook groups sure do come in handy when you're trying to crowdsource information.
Yes.
So I just joined a bunch of Facebook groups for expats in Mexico and just learned a bunch about medical care and giving birth in the country. And we based our travel plans, at least our first stop, off of like where we would be able to find the best medical care. And I think, outside of Mexico City, Guadalajara is where we were, and they have exceptional medical care. So I was able to, while we were still in the States, I was able to get connected with a provider, a midwife group, who then connected me also with a doctor. And I was able to establish virtual care before we even arrived in the country.
Wow.
So that was really cool. And then, when we got there, I can't say it's the same all across Mexico, but in the bigger cities, for sure, it's just like what you would experience here in the United States. Mm-hmm. Great facilities, really good doctors, clean, way more affordable, way more affordable, a level of excellence that you would expect in, some countries that, I don't know, European countries or America or Canada, people think, oh, they have the best. Mexico also has the best. They are top notch. Yeah.
Wow.
For sure. Yeah. I would agree with that. I haven't had medical care there.
Yeah. Well, can I ask you, affordability? I know we haven't had kids, so
and feel free to not answer.
Yeah, feel free to not answer that.
That's personal.
I want to know a roundabout cost. How what was the affordability like in Mexico?
Percentage less or more? What'd that look like?
So in America, having a baby, the price can range drastically. And of course, then you're factoring in insurance and how does that all play into it. So I think the biggest thing that most parents in the U.S. could probably agree on is there's no certainty behind what you're going to pay. You kind of are waiting until the end to be oh, how much is it going to be? In Mexico, the healthcare system is different. It's they have universal health care for citizens, and then they also have private health facilities. So if you don't want to use the government medical facilities, you can pay your own money and go to a private facility, which is what we did because we were not citizens. I would say, so it's hard to give a exact comparison, it's 50% less or 75%, but I will say the one thing that Mexico has going is that the costs are all up front. We knew exactly how much we were going to pay.
Wow.
Assuming there were no last minute emergencies, we knew how much we were going to pay when we walked out of the hospital. And so
that's crazy.
It was. And they actually, the hospitals just have it on their website.
What? Oh my gosh.
So you're up there selecting whatever procedure and you're all right, I'll just check out right now.
You basically, it's like booking a hotel. You book your hospital stay, and if you want these things, it's this much. If you want these things, it's this much.
Wow.
And that's it. That's just it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's impressive. Yeah.
So, okay. And now I have a question too. I'm sorry, Chris. He just lets me roll with it. But I know that sometimes countries, when we travel, we have actually have never been asked, but we have friends who have been asked for proof of income. If you were to get sick in Canada or something, Canada especially wants to have proof of your income and your finances to make sure that you're not going to be a liability to the health system, the government. The Canada's not gonna have to pay for you if you get sick.
Yeah.
Did you have to provide any sort of paperwork or something to say, hey, I'm gonna personally cover having a baby here? Was that anything you had to do?
No, we didn't have to do anything like that. I know that if you are applying for residency in the country, you do have to provide proof of income, and that you have a certain amount of money and that you meet a certain level of income. But as we were just traveling on our passports, so we didn't have to do anything like that. And then at the hospital, they take your payment before you leave the hospital. So it's not like, oh, we'll send you a bill, but like, haha, you won't know where to find us. You do not leave the hospital until you have paid your bill. At least that was our experience. Now, I don't know if that's the same for like, you know, anybody that just lives there and has a permanent address there. But for us, they were like, we'll hold your baby. You can go over there and pay your bill. And then you can
I was wondering that.
Oh, okay. So
that's incentive. Okay. Did you guys have any other medical? I know one of you guys had a root canal there, right? So
we actually had a few encounters with the medical, the healthcare system in Mexico. I had a root canal and a crown put on. We all had kind of basic dental work done, like cleanings. I also had a filling replaced. Don't judge my teeth. And one of our daughters had 2 injuries while we were traveling, and we had to take her to the ER twice. So yeah, we had a few encounters. Yeah, all of them were like so good. I mean, not good that we had those encounters, but like positive experiences.
You're just inflicting pain so you could go to the doctor. You're like, this is a pretty good experience down here.
Another root canal.
Fun.
Let's do this again.
Yeah.
How was the ER? Was that pretty good?
Yeah, it was good. I would say the hardest part was figuring out like, where do we go? So one of the times we were in a big city, and one time we were in a smaller city, and that was harder because we didn't know where to go, and there wasn't like a big private hospital. There was just the public hospital. So we did end up having to go to the public hospital. So we actually, that was a cool cultural experience.
Yeah.
We got to see what like the inside of, at least the ER, inside of the ER in like a public hospital is like. Really interesting.
We're just so fascinated by medical tourism. We get a lot of questions about that. I think it's a newer idea for a lot of people, but Mexico's so accessible. And, you know, we were in Korea, so Chris did his LASIK in Korea, but we've also heard that doing LASIK in Mexico is really good and really affordable. So I know we'll have people out here asking more questions about that.
Yeah. So while you were traveling around, did you work at all from Mexico, or was this like a 9-month, you just lived off of you selling everything? Did you work down there or have any income coming in?
I didn't work. I left my job and then just was in full-on dad mode all day, every day.
Yeah.
So
which
cool.
was exactly what, you know, like I was so excited for that. And
Absolutely.
it was a year like just of intentional fatherhood to the kids, and like, you know, not many people get to do that. And it was such an awesome year for all things. Being a dad and watching my kids grow. So that is such a cool experience to be able to no distraction, right? You know, just like you're here, like you're in the moment. So,
I work online, so I was able to keep my job, and I work like around part-time. So I was able to work from the road. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
So you got to taste the digital nomad life. Did you like it?
Yes.
Do you like? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I would do anything to be able to move around like that. So totally, the digital nomad life, totally worth it if you like traveling. There's definitely its challenges. The biggest challenge for me was not so much the location, but we kind of flip-flopped roles where I was, you know, prior to moving, I was primarily the home caregiver and the homemaker while working a little bit, like one day a week. And Alex was working full time. So we kind of flipped, and he was with the kids full time and I was working a little bit more.
Wow.
And that was probably the hardest part, is figuring out the rhythms and the routines. And It's really hard to work at home with 5 kids around.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So yeah, like when do I work? Where do I work? How does it look for our family? And just sort of adopting new roles within our family. So that was harder than being a digital nomad.
Yeah, we don't know that whole side of it, the whole parenting thing. I can only imagine. And we're just over here trying to wrangle Kramer, our dog.
Yeah.
That's like funny.
And then like, yeah.
It's way too much.
And like, we'll have conversations with him. We're like, what's your deal, man? Like, why are you bugging us today? Stop barking. Like, I know you can't do that to your kids. So yeah. I can't imagine.
Actually, there is one aspect that I'm sure you guys can relate to, and it's coordinating travel and like your work responsibilities and deadlines and things. Like, okay, if we're going to travel this day, like that means we have to adjust working this day. You know, maybe I work Monday through Wednesday, but we need to check out of our Airbnb on Tuesday. So like that interrupts your normal work routine, you know, kind of being able to flex. That can be, you know, a little challenging, especially if you have clients and you're working, you know, have things that you need to get done by a certain time, compared to the fact that you're getting to like move around and see new places.
Totally worth it.
That's so minor. Yeah.
That's how we feel too. You find a rhythm to it.
You do.
I think.
And it never fails. Somebody will text or call, or you'll get an email and you're like, can you meet today? And you'll agree to it. And you're like, why did I do that? I have to travel to it. Like, why? Yeah. It just never fails, but it's always something. So, you guys are just like a normal family. Like, I mean, honestly, you spent 9 months in Mexico, but
pretty normal.
I mean, you even said that at the beginning. You're just like, where you as you were describing yourself, you were describing, I feel like everyday American, like American family, and you picked up and you went and you did something, and that's something that's not normal. A lot of people don't do that.
Scary.
It is scary. And so what would you say to people who would listen to this they have this inkling of like, yeah, maybe I should wait till my kid's 18 out of the house or whatever? Like, I mean, what would you say right now to people who may want to do what you did?
Yeah, I'll say, you know, Jess and I spent a lot of time thinking and dreaming, and I think if you're in that stage, and Chris, to touch on what you said, like, oh, wait till my kids are older, or it'll be a better time when they're older, like, that might be true, but it's easy to always push things off. You know, that's easy. What's not easy is just doing it, you know. But once you do take that step into, you know, just doing, man, the moment we made that decision, it was just like excitement, like things just were falling into place, and it just, like, I would never go back. And at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, I'm so glad that we did that, and we didn't say like, oh, no, it's not the right time. Oh, we'll do it when our kids are older, or we'll wait till our child's born to travel. Like, we'll just go and have the kid in Mexico.
Have the kid in Mexico.
So
I think that is so cool.
Blows my mind. It still blows my mind.
And she's a dual citizen, right?
Is she?
Yeah, she is.
She is?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
She will thank you forever and ever.
That is so cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think like you'll never regret taking action on something you dream about.
Yeah.
Like that could be traveling, that could be starting a business, it could be getting a dog, it could be buying a house, like it could be just learning how to ride a bike, it could be anything, but you'll never regret like taking action on something you dream about. And it is, like Alex was saying, it's so easy to be next, whatever will be better. When my kids are these ages, it will be easier. It probably won't be easier. Like things will be different, but that different doesn't equate to easier, because there's always going to be unknowns. There's always going to be challenges. If you have even an inkling of like, I want to travel as a family, you can do it.
Yeah.
You don't have to start with like, jump in and sell your home and go for a year. That was not our introduction to traveling. We've been traveling as a family forever.
Yeah.
It was our first time taking our little kids out of the country. Our older daughter had been out of the country, but we've done like road trips in the US. We travel to see family. We go on vacation, or we go camping, or, different things like that. So you don't have to start with the extreme. Take small actions and build on it. You can do it. Your kids can do it. Yeah. Kids are so resilient. Yeah. They adapt so well, and they'll follow you. Like if you want to do it, like your kids probably trust you, and they'll follow you, and they'll just think you're having the best time if like that's the culture that you create for your family. So yeah, families can do it. Kids can do it. Yeah.
I love that. That's so good.
You're really cool parents.
You guys really are cool parents.
You're cool parents.
So cool.
Can somebody tell that to our 16-year-old?
Yeah.
I can't believe she's 16. That makes me feel
It makes me feel really old. Yeah.
I think she was like kindergarten when I met you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, she was. Definitely.
So little.
That's so crazy.
So can I ask another question?
Why are you asking me?
Because I'm always the one asking all the questions. I am so talkative in this. Mexico. I know we kind of touched on it briefly in the beginning, where Mexico, it has a stigma in the States, as far as like being unsafe. But we've been to Mexico a couple times. You guys went time in Mexico. You know that it's not what the news, what you see on the news is real in some parts, but more often than not, it's a great place. So would you guys encourage other people to do Mexico? Would you go back to Mexico? What are your thoughts now that you've been there for 9 months?
I think,
absolutely.
Yes, all of it. We love Mexico. Like unequivocally, like it is an amazing country. The people are incredible. The culture is incredible. The topography is out of this world. You will see things like we saw an active volcano. That is so cool. Yeah. It's an amazing country. It really is. Yes, some parts are less safe, but that's where you use wisdom, you use good judgment, you crowdsource information from more experienced travelers, and you take calculated risks. You don't go to those places, or if you were planning to and something has happened, you reroute. Well, I think most cities probably have like what would be like the rough side of the city. That doesn't define your whole city. Our country has parts of the country that maybe have less of a than ideal culture. That doesn't define your whole country. And it's the same with Mexico. Yeah. Like, yes, there are parts that aren't great and you probably should avoid, but that doesn't define the whole country. It's an amazing country. Yeah, it really is.
I think we should close it out with a question of, would you guys do this again?
Yeah.
Maybe not Mexico. Like, is this something like if the opportunity were to present itself, maybe even take like digital nomad jobs to where you could go for longer? Would you guys take the family overseas again?
I absolutely would. Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
And I'd do it in Mexico again too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd do it anywhere.
Anywhere, yeah.
It's like, it's like trying to do the whole United States in 9 months. Like,
oh gosh,
you can't do it,
No,
like,
you can't.
There's so much more to Mexico that we still want to see and visit.
Yeah.
The whole world. We're like,
truly.
We want to go everywhere.
That's how we feel too. I'm like, we're getting older. We're not going to get everywhere in at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. What's next?
Yeah. What is next for you guys? Are you guys comfortable sharing that?
We don't know.
That's our life.
We're comfortable saying we don't know.
Yeah.
I like that.
We got back to Minneapolis, and we really weren't sure if we were going to like settle down here or if we were going to go somewhere else. So we're just kind of taking it season by season right now. We are in a home. We're renting a home for the short term. We have a short-term lease, and we're trying to figure out what's next. So we have some ideas, we have some dreams, but we haven't decided like exactly like what our next move is going to be.
That's exciting, though.
That's
I love
exciting.
that. I really do.
Yeah.
That's like that's how I like to live.
And
It's
you
like
know-
I don't know what tomorrow is going to be.
Yeah. And your life isn't crumbling around you. You know,
Yes.
the world isn't on fire. Like I feel like most people or a lot of people want plans. They need to have like something set in stone or whatever. And it's okay. Like, and you guys are living proof that like you're doing just fine and you're doing something really cool with your family. Yeah, it's really inspiring. So for real, thank you so much for being on this show. And like we really enjoy we love talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for listening to What No One Tells You with Chris and Sarah. If you have a comment or question that you want answered on the air, be sure to send us a message to hello@chrisandsarah.com, or you can call or text our phone number at 423-825-9572. Thanks for listening.